Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the ANAE Supply Chain Leader Learning Series with Brent Johnson, President and CEO of Intalere. My name is Anna McCormick, and I'm the Product Manager for ANAE. And just before we get started, I got a couple announcements. As we go through the call, please feel free to submit any questions that you have via the GoToWebinar chat window or via the hand icon on your control panel, or you can email me at amccormick@mdsi.org. And also we've got our IDN Insights West meeting coming up May 10th and 11th in Los Angeles, California. And if you look at your screen right now, you can see a list of speakers that we're having. These include Intalere, Kaiser Permanente, Intermountain Healthcare, Honor Health, Virginia Mason, Mercy ROI, and Queens Medical Center. So after this call, I'm going to be sending out an email to all of you guys with a special discount code if you'd like to join us. And now I'll introduce you to the President of ANAE, John Pritchard.
Thank you, Anna. Good morning, everybody. It is absolutely my pleasure to introduce Brent Johnson, President and CEO of Intalere. Brent, welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for the invite. I always enjoy talking to supply chain to any audience, and this is a good audience anytime you get your membership and good suppliers and IDN, so that's good.
Great. Yeah, we're looking for quite a turnout next month in Marina del Rey. We've had a really great amount of registrants attend, and in no short part because of your keynote, which we're certainly looking forward to hearing. I want to just kind of read the description of the keynote to our listeners, because the objective of today's call is just to kind of give them insight into what you'll be covering. And I find your perspective in particular fascinating because of your former time at Intermountain Healthcare. And it's interesting because on the agenda you'll actually be followed later by Craig Coford from Intermountain. And now as President and CEO of Intalere, which is formerly Amerinet, one of the nation's largest GPOs, I think your perspective will be really interesting. And the topic we've asked you to cover is the future of the healthcare contracting arena, where you'll look ahead at how the role of IDN and GPOs will change in the future and how suppliers and providers can continue to partner together through these changes. You know, and with that, if you could just touch a little bit on maybe next month your talk and what you'll cover as it pertains to successful IDN supplier relationships.
Yeah, thank you. You know, first of all, it's really interesting that I'm running a GPO, or what we think is a GPO now, because I've never been a fan of GPOs, and people kind of, when they see me, they kind of make fun of me. They say, you don't even like GPOs, and now you are one. And I say, okay, time out, let me explain. And so a little bit of explanation. I'm not going to do an Intalere sales thing at the meeting, but let me tell you, everyone knows kind of how I think in relation to the industry and how neat it is, and yet how much more we've got to do, how much low-hanging fruit. So a little bit of an outline of things that I will be talking about. First of all, the burning platform that we all have. This is a great time to be in healthcare, because once you go from fee for service for fee for value and the cost pressures on the industry, they've got to, before they start laying nurses off a bedside, before they start making clinical cuts, they need to take more. They get more value out of the supply chain, and this is good for GPOs, it's good for supply chain organizations, and it's also good for suppliers. Plus, the industry is going to grow it's going to double in the next 10 years, but we got to work together to get solutions to help the industry. So that's why I say it's a burning platform. I'll talk a little bit about the pro, what I think is really needed with self-contracting, investment in supply chain resources, supply chain value, and then connecting to clinical, and what our role is as IDN and GPOs, but especially suppliers in the new value model, where we got to go. While I say I'm anti-GPO, I'm not anti-GPO. I just wish we had a different model rather than the admin fees. And I just don't like how all the GPOs add admin fees onto everything. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then I'm gonna have a pretty good review of the GPO industry, and I think I can do it pretty. I mean, I say I am one, but I can do it pretty open-mindedly, transparently. And then analysis of the future of the GPOs. You know, I mean, a future of healthcare supply chain. I mean, all the IDNs that are getting into GPOs themselves, the regional GPOs, and there's a bunch of people that don't have GPOs that really are acting like one. And but anyway, at the end of the day, you know, what does this all mean to us, suppliers, IDNs, GPOs, contracting groups? We believe we're a supply chain organization. It means we got to work together, partner to bring different, new, and greater value. And I think the door's going to be open for us. We just got to do it. So that, in a nutshell, that's my outline for the discussion that we'll have in Los Angeles next month, and I look forward to it.
Great, Brent. Yeah, it's interesting. I've heard you for years kind of term GPOs as an evil necessity, if you will. And the other thing I've heard you talk about for years is your passion for partnership, true partnerships that are seen in other industries that our stakeholders seem so reticent to join in healthcare. So hopefully you'll be able to share some of your research you've done with other organizations on partnerships. You know, another area that's real interesting to me, it seems like the way IDNs and their supply chain leaders choose products and services seems to have really changed the last 3 to 5 years. I think it's going to continue to change going forward. Why is it important for suppliers to understand how products and services are evaluated today, kind of in the post-reform era, if you will?
Yeah, and the fee-for-service model, which has existed for 30, 40 years, everything was all about price and cost, and pressures were on materials management people through their GPOs to just give me the best price. And I think as the evolution of the supply chain value grows in the supply chain industry, and where the pressures are to reduce total cost, more and more are looking beyond price. Yeah, they got to have good price, reasonable price, but there's a whole lot more value to standardization, a whole lot more value to utilization. And in other industries where I've come from, a lot of the real good value comes from the suppliers, but where we have such a low trust between buyers and sellers in this industry, that's got to change. And so we're really big proponents at Intermountain and at Intalere as a supply chain organization to find the best suppliers, grow them, find suppliers that can talk beyond price, and then we work out the value and the benefit and decide how to share the difference. So it is partnership, supplier relationship is so important. My problem, if I was a supplier though, is that which IDN am I working with that's still looking after just price, and which one really understands fee for value and wants to entertain that, because you can't present something to someone that only still wants price. So you just as we on our side not every supplier is going to be an alliance supplier, a partner supplier. You kind of do the quad matrix 2x2s, and some things are just transactional. Well, the suppliers got to do the same thing with us as providers and buyers. Which one of us don't have the capability to go beyond transaction and just treat us transactional versus those that really understand, and you want to invest more beyond just salespeople, solutions people, clinical, analysis people to help us. So it's a changing, but it's not going to be a perfect world.
Yeah, it's interesting that trust is a big issue, and then when you add on to that the fragmentation that we have 1,200 federal tax ID numbers that own our 6, 7, 8,000 hospitals, it's quite a hard market to aggregate into meaningful chunks of market share. Lastly, if you could you just touch on maybe a few things you might cover next month that suppliers need to be working on so that they'll be successful in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah. Number one, trust. How do you build trust? That's an interesting discussion. And it's sometimes in your own organization, your incentive pay for your salespeople. If you're just incenting them to get more sales, they don't have time to build the trust, to build the solutions, to build the relationship needed that you have already in your organization to bring over to the other side. So one is, how do you build trust? And then how do you work in a fee for value versus a fee for service model? how do you package yourself? You know, suppliers need to come in and listen, not just come in and start selling, but come in and listen to see what my needs are as an IDN. Where are my pain points? And then go back to your organization, find solutions to my pain points, and then come talk in terms of my language, what I need. And so I think some of it is getting yourselves ready for fee for value. And, you know, for 3 to 5 year success for a supplier in this changing world, you're going to have to invest into understanding IDNs, where they're at in the maturity level of the supply chain, and meet each IDN at the level of their supply chain and say, here's how we can help you get to the next level, and then just say, how can we help you get there? So it's not easy, it's multifaceted, but if you ignore it, you're going to just stay in a fee-for-service model based upon just price, and maybe that's sufficient because it's a big industry and it's going to grow, and maybe you can make but I think long-term people are going to be looking for more solutions beyond price. And I think that, you know, the national GPO is changing. You know, price probably only applies where you can aggregate a cost and scale on just nuisance and commodity items, and how you make those decisions on the rest of the 70% of the non-labor spend. And I think that there's a lot of benefit suppliers can bring to the non-labor spend as we on our side get more educated in that. And anyway, it's an exciting time. It's a good time, but you got to be prepared.
Great. With that, Brent, I'm going to thank you for your time. I really appreciate you carving out a few minutes with us this morning. And to our audience, I would just recap today's conversation that if you are interested in hearing maybe some insight into successful IDN supplier relationships, what suppliers need to know in a post-era reform to be successful, and maybe a few characteristics of successful suppliers in the future, we'd love to invite you to next month's meeting at Marina Del Rey, May 10th and 11th. And with that, Brent, I'm going to thank you and bid you adieu and wish you all the luck and look forward to seeing you in Los Angeles next month.
Thanks, John. Yeah, I look forward to the meeting. You got a great agenda.
Thank you, Brent. We'll talk to you soon.